We have completed our reflection and discussion on definition. Now we go to the next part, namely division. We are considering definition and division together under one unit. The reason is that both are ways of clarifying the term. When you define, we are clarifying what a term means. When you divide, we are also clarifying by referring to the various kinds of that term. So both are means of clarification. So therefore, that is the reason why we are considering them under one unit. But a slight difference between them in clarifying, in definition, we have made use of connotation, and in division, we are referring to denotation. So the focus of attention will be on denotation when you come to division, and in definition, it was more on connotation. We have spent, so there is in reference to connotation, we define, in reference to denotation, we divide. Now we are going to understand what is meant by division. So division is the analysis of the denotation of a term. That means we split the denotation of a term into various groups. Thus we divide man into Asians, Europeans, Africans, Americans, etc. So we are splitting the denotation of a term. Denotation means all those individual instances to which a term can be applied or extended. So many humans are there. We are dividing them into one group are called Asians, other one is called Africans, Europeans, Americans, and so on. So we are dividing the humans into different groups, dividing. So what we are dividing? We are splitting the denotation of the term. That means all those individual beings who can be called by the term man, we are dividing. So one group is here, one group is there, and so on. More clarity will come as we go to the rules of logical division. First rule, a logical division is always of a class and not of an individual. We can divide man, but not a man. Dividing an individual would be a physical division. So the first rule about division is that we are dividing always a class. A class means a group. We are dividing tree. We are dividing human being. We are dividing Christians. We are dividing Indians. They are all they are constituted of various individuals. We are dividing them into subgroups. So we use the expression in our language, we divide something, but when you divide an individual object or a person into its parts, then it is called physical division. So keep in mind, one is logical division. That means division that as we take, we are dividing a class. We are dividing tree into different kinds of tree. We are dividing humans into different people belonging to different countries or different continents. Or we are dividing colleges or different kinds of colleges. But when you divide a tree, we are cutting the tree into pieces. We are dividing a tree into leaves, branches, trunk, roots. It is also division. We use that expression, division, for that also, that we are cutting into a table into legs, the top surface, and so on. These are all an individual object or a person we are dividing into its parts. When you divide an individual object or a person into parts, then it is a physical division. It is not a logical division. Logical division, we can divide humans Or we can divide man into Christians, into Hindus, and so on, various according to the different religions. We can divide humans also according to the countries. We can divide humans also according to the different professions they hold. So different ways we can divide. But when you divide one person into head, trunk, or the main part of the trunk, limbs, and so on, when you divide, it is not a logically correct division. It is a physical division. Physical division. We are cutting an object into pieces. Here we are not cutting the object into pieces. We are dividing a class into subgroups, subclasses. So it must be always of a class and not an individual. The second rule is every division must be based on one principle or criterion. Another important rule. Every division must be based on one criterion. I am dividing humans or man into Christians, Hindus, Muslims, and so on. Here we are dividing humans into different groups based on one criterion. And what is the criterion? Religion. Based on religion, we are dividing the humans. We can also divide humans into another type of division, man, according to the places of Americans, Africans, Asians, Australians, and so on, according to different continents. But don't mix up. That means don't divide man into Christians and then Asians. That is not a correct division. Either you follow religion, or you follow the continents to which they belong, or you follow their profession they are endowed with, or the profession they are practicing. Whatever, only one criterion must be used in each division. In each division, use only one criterion. Don't mix up. If you are dividing by religion, only that one. If I am dividing by their educational quality, another division. So don't mix up. And if more than one criterion is used, we commit the fallacy. Fallacy means wrong, the mistake. The fallacy of cross division. So that is another expression we are already introducing here. Cross division. So first of all, after having said division must be based on one criterion or basis, we are saying in case you divide a man into Christians, Asians, and musicians, they are all divisions. But then this division where we have used different criteria, religion, continents, their talents, different criteria we have used, then it is called cross division. When we use in the same division different criteria for the division, it is called cross division. And then one more term we have introduced here, that is co-division. It is the division of the same class according to different principles in different acts of division. Co-division. Now, for example, I am dividing man on the one hand into Asians, Africans, Europeans, and so on. On the other hand, I am dividing man into Christians, Hindus, Muslims, Buddhists, based on. So this is the same group is divided On the one hand by one criterion, on the other hand by another criterion, there that is called co-division. So we are dividing man here in different acts of division, not the same act. If we use different criteria in the same act of division, then we fall into the fallacy of cross division. Cross division, we are dividing humans into Asians, musicians into Christians, is a cross division. But you can divide humans on the one hand as according to the continents, on the other hand according to the language, on the third basis according to religions. They are called, same term is divided according to different principles in different acts of division. That is called co-division. And there is one more term to be included here. So this one is co-division. So this is cross division. This is a co-division. Now there is another one is called subdivision. Just introducing these different terms in the context of explaining about division, the logical division. It has to be used by one criterion. If you don't use one criterion, more than one criterion, then it becomes a cross division. In that context, logicians are introducing a few other expressions to clarify our understanding. Therefore, we have introduced cross division, co-division. Now we are introducing subdivision. And what is a subdivision? Subdivision is the process of dividing class through several stages by the same or different principles. I given an example there. We can take any example. So we are dividing Indians, dividing into Christians, Hindus, Muslims, and all other religions. Now we are dividing, taking Christians, subdividing into Catholics, and then what is called Protestants, and so on. All the various denominations of Christians, we are subdividing. Again, you take Catholics. We take the what is called the Latin rite and Oriental rite, and so on. We can go on dividing. So that is called, you divide, and then each subdivision, each subgroup is again divided. That is the way we follow in the table of contents of the book. Table of contents of the book. You divide the book into different chapters, and each chapter is divided into subdivision. They are minor division, and each minor division can be again subdivided. That is the process of division which we will study in methodology. You start with one chapter, and then one chapter A, and A is subdivided into this one, 2, then again B. So this is called the process. So then we come to chapter 2. So this is the process of subdivision, process of dividing a class through several stages by the same or different principles. So here we do not follow the same principle. It can be, Christians can be divided according to American Christians, Indian Christians, and so on. Another criterion can be used. So by the same or different criterion, we divide the process of division is called through different stages. That is called subdivision. So you can go on without end, indefinitely subdividing again and again. Take each small group and divide again into subdivisions. That process is called subdivision. So these are the various kinds. Only by way of clarifying, we have introduced these terms in the context of presenting cross division. So, cross division is a division using more than one criterion in the same act of division. More than one criterion in the same act of division. So, I am dividing humans into Asians, Christians. Already we have made a mistake. That is called cross division. Co-division is what? Same term. I am dividing in different acts. Maybe by the same or by the different criterion. So dividing Christians or humans into according to continents. We can divide humans according to the language. We can divide humans according to religion. There is no problem. That is called co-division. Then subdivision, that the process of division through different stages by the same or different principles. So that is in the context of the second rule. The third rule is the constitutive subclasses must not overlap but must be exclusive of each other. This rule follows from the second rule of using one principle in division. Thus, when we divide man into Christians, Negroes, Americans, we fall into the fallacy of overlapping division. Now, the term is not that important. What we want to say is that, in fact, when we have followed the second rule, we will have followed also the third rule. But then, for the sake of completion, the third rule is introduced. For what? To say that the constitutive subclasses, that means we are dividing a class into subclasses. We are dividing humans into Asians, Africans, Europeans, subclasses. Those subclasses should not overlap, but must be exclusive of each other. Exclusive of each other. That means what? That means that is term exclusive. It is a logically important term, exclusive of each other. For instance, I just give you an example. Man, we are dividing, I take this easier example of same thing which I have already given. So Asians, Europeans, Africans, and so on. Now, this is logically correct because we are dividing a term according to the one criterion. Now, what we are saying here, and if we are logically if we have followed division is based on one criterion, then we will have followed the third rule, namely the subclasses. Which are the subclasses? Asians, Europeans, Africans, Australians, or Americans, Australians, and so on. These are the subclasses. They should not overlap. Overlap means one subgroup should not enter into the other one. No Asian can be a European. No European can be an Asian. One cannot be Asian and European. That means there's a dividing line between Asians and Europeans. So also Europeans and Africans, Africans and Americans. Dividing line must be so precise. There is no question about one entering into the other. It's called exclusive division. So there is no question about one belonging to one group as well as in the other group. If one is an African, then he is not an American. If one is an American, he cannot be European. So that's called exclusive division. So all the subclasses must be exclusive, and that means should not overlap. Don't enter into one group, should not enter into the other one, but exclusive of each other. I think I have explained sufficiently. Then we come to the fourth rule, the division must be exhaustive. Exclusive and exhaustive, those terms are also important. Exhaustive, what is the exhaustive? Completing. It must be completed, complete. That means what? The subclasses added together must be equal and only equal to the class that is divided. So we are dividing humans, Africans into all these things. Any more things they are added together. It must be, every man must be included in one or the other group. The total number of humans or man and the total number of all these things put together must be equal. Equal and only equal. Nothing less, nothing more. Because we are dividing man. We are not dividing man into a few groups and then he leave. When you divide Indians into Andhrais, Keralais, Tamilians and so on, it's not enough. You cannot stop with that three. Every Indian must be included in one or the other group. That's the meaning of exhaustive. All the subclasses must exhaust the class that we are dividing. Nothing should be out of that one. So it must be equal and only equal. Something similar we have said regarding definition. A definition must apply all that is intended, all the denotation of the definiendum and only to them. So when you are, man is rational animal, when you said the rational animal must apply to all the individual humans and nobody other than the humans. Just as in the case of definition, here also we are saying the division must be also exhaustive. It must be the same as the totality, that denotation of man, denotation of all these added together, Asians plus Europeans plus Africans, Americans, Australians, if there are any other, this one, together must be same number. If there are 1,000 people, here also there must be 1,000. It must be same. Because we are dividing all the humans together. When you divide trees, don't divide only teak trees and mango trees. That is not exhaustive. It is only, we are dividing into a few groups. That it's not exhausted. The whole number of trees is not exhausted by that kind of division. Logical division must be exhaustive. The subclasses must be exhaustive. That means subclasses added together must be equal and only equal to the class that is divided. Or else the division can be either too narrow or too wide. Too narrow and too wide. That means when Indians are divided into Keralites and Andhrais, it is a narrow division because the subdivisions do not come less than the term divided. Indians, that is so large. When you add together Andhrais and Keralites, we get only a small group. It is not exhaustive. It is a narrow division. The subclasses is smaller than the class that is divided. When you divide Indians into South Indians, North Indians and Pakistan is also included out of love for them. But then what happens? Then it is a wider division or a larger division. A division is, it is not a narrow but rather a broad division. It is not logically correct. If it is, something is left out, if it is not everybody is not included, it is narrow. And if it is, everybody is included, a few more other than a few others as well, then it becomes a broad division. Both are illogical. Logical division must be equal to the term divided. The term divided and the subclasses must be equal and only equal. That is equal to saying it has to be exhaustive. Nothing should be left out. When you divide trees, all the trees, all that denotation of the trees must be included. Not even one tree should be out. They should not feel that I am not included. Only then it becomes logically correct. Then finally, the name of the class divided should be applicable in the same sense to each of the subclasses. When man is divided into Europeans, Asians, Africans, etc., the term man can be predicated of each of them in the same sense. I have beautifully put it here. We are dividing tree into mango tree, or teak tree, or chiku tree, or whatever it is. Everything is a tree. We are dividing man into Europeans, Africans, Asians. Every group, we can say Africans are human being, Europeans are human being. So the term divided will be able to predicate of each of the subclasses, because we are dividing a class into subclasses. The class divided, that name should be applicable in the same sense to each of the subclasses. So Christians are divided into Catholics and Protestants. So we must be able to say Catholics are Christians, Protestants also are Christians, because we are dividing Christians. That name must be applicable to each of the subclasses in the same sense, not in different sense. Catholics are Christians in the same way as Protestants are Christians. Both are Christians. Teak tree is a tree, just as mango tree is a tree. The meaning of tree is said of mango tree as well as teak tree in the same sense, in the univocal sense. We'll make a small stop.